Well, happy Thursday, everyone. I'll keep this introduction very brief. I am a father. I have two boys, 8 and 12. I'm a 7-time founder. I've never really had a job, just been starting tech companies in the Silicon Valley the last 23 years. And I live in a treehouse just south of the San Francisco Bay Area. So from time to time, bandwidth can be an issue. Hopefully y'all can hear me clearly. And I love emerging tech trends. I think making ideas scale is super important. Otherwise, you can't make this type of impact that Brian, Keith, and Travis have made in their career. So really happy to be here. I look forward to talking more about what my team and I have built at Attention Live that allows us to broadcast Clubhouse rooms directly to Amazon Alexa as well as YouTube and create all sorts of fun tech with that. But maybe we'll get into that stuff a bit later. I'm on Clubhouse right now. This is Ian Utile, CEO at Attention Live, with my friend Charles Lee. And he's going to ask me to share what emerging tech trends I'm most excited about. I'm on mute, and I'm going to unmute and talk. All right, well, emerging tech trends I'm most excited about. I wrote a white paper recently called Decentralized Voice Tech Will Disrupt Centralized Interfaces. So I'm excited about everything you guys are talking about, right? Artificial intelligence, machine learning, NLP, NLU, conversational AI, everything around the AI space. The idea of flying cars and tunnels that will suck my car from one place to another, or space exploration, like all these different things. And Travis has definitely hit the nail on the head. All of the struggles I've had as a 7-time entrepreneur are because of lack of cash flow. You know, when you keep building, but you don't find that right spot and people willing to give you their money. Nevertheless, I'll come back to my two main trends. One is voice tech. I think that we went from 10 fingers on a keyboard to 2 thumbs on a piece of glass. And I think that the primary interface of the future will be our voice. And whether we're talking to Alexa or Siri or Assistant, or we create our own voice interface. And I do think that that's the most human way to interact with technology. And so I would say that voice tech is the emerging tech trend that's best for humans. The other tech trend that I feel very strongly about is decentralized ledger technology. So we see this in DeFi with cryptocurrency. We're seeing some new things play out with smart contracts around supply chain management, which is revolutionary. We also see smart contracts playing a big role for artists and video games with what are called NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, these one-of-one crypto collectibles of sorts. We're playing in that space, creating NFTs for every single broadcast that goes through our software. So imagine this Clubhouse room, if all of us were using our software, every word that Brian, Keith, and Travis said would be transcribed for them, recorded for them, broadcast to their specific channels like YouTube channels or Alexa channel. We'd build a skill for them or whatnot automatically. And then they would have proof of their intellectual property because we'd put that token of the transcription, the audio file, on the Ethereum blockchain. So that to me is a huge emerging tech trend. Leveraging voice tech for the human interface and leveraging decentralized technology as the foundation of what's being built with artificial intelligence and all things that are coming. So that is my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear what Terry has to say.
Oh, Ian, you said everything I was going to say. Pretty much, if I just expand on one of the concepts that I'm really excited about for the emerging tech, and I'll say again, I feel like kind of like, you know, the shiny object, the squirrel chasing after the shiny object, and I hear Brian talk about AI, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then Keith with Jones, oh yeah, that's cool. And then the business models and the contracts and then the tech of the contact lens and oh, that's so cool. Particularly the contact lens, because from a healthcare perspective, that's really cool. But what I want to say is, again, I think voice is a huge trend. And just to expand a little bit on what Ian was saying, if you think about how operating systems have evolved, we see a change in operating systems approximately every decade. And if you go back a number of decades, I'll age myself here, I remember playing with my first personal computer, and it was a Tandy computer from Radio Shack, and the operating system was MS-DOS. Right, we put in those 5.25-inch floppy disks, you booted up the computer, and the way you interfaced with the computer was through a keyboard only. Right, there wasn't a graphical user interface at that point, so it was a keyboard. Approximately 10 years later, MS Windows came out, and now we had a mouse, and it was a little bit more intuitive. Approximately 10 years later, that's when Steve Jobs got up on stage and introduced the iPhone, and so now we have a touchscreen, as Ian was saying, right, with you using your thumbs and you're pinching and tapping and zooming and swiping and all that bit. And here we are now, approximately a decade later, and because of the advances in AI, machine learning, NLP, NLU, and all the things that Ian was mentioning, we can talk to computers with our voice. And so what does that mean? Well, I think it's actually a big paradigm shift. In the past, whenever we interfaced with a computer, it had to be through a piece of hardware in our hands. Keyboard, mouse, touchscreen. But now for the first time, if there's a microphone in a room, you can talk to a computer. And so instead of us having to learn the skills to interface with a computer, it's flipped around. The computers are adapting to the way that we naturally communicate. And because of that, I think more and more we're going to see a world of ambient computing, microphones around, us just talking to the computers being aware of who we are, responding to us personally, and truly being there to serve us as personal assistants. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
I'm going to cast two really quick visions just to spark imagination about how I see voice playing out. So 18 months from now, I imagine that Grandma Jane, she loses Grandpa John. And John's gone. But there's a tech company that's able to take Grandpa John, his videos, the audio files that his grandkids have of him, the text messages that he used to write to his niece and his nephew, his son and his daughter, and they're going to be able to take his voice and they will overlay Alexa, Samsung Bixby, Microsoft Cortana, whatever it is, or an independent voice assistant. And Grandma Jane, well, she's not doing so well because Grandpa John died. But now that Jane gets to listen to her deceased husband give her guidance, even though she's getting Alzheimer's, even though she has the onset of dementia, now it can be her deceased husband, his voice, with his empathy and his compassion, that when it's time to get up, he speaks to her. Jane, it's John. It's time for you to get up. I'm going to play our favorite song right now, honey. And your daughter, she's going to come in the next 5 minutes. And she's going to bring you your favorite drink or your favorite snack. Or she's going to sit down with you and show you pictures of your grandkids. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid if you don't remember them. That's normal. This is what you go through every day. And I used to be here to take care of you, but I'm not here with you anymore. But this at least is my chance to still be present with you. So imagine, my friends, what happens when we take it to that extent in the next year or two because of the pace of technology. One last thing as an inspiration for voice technology. Take it out 81 months. Starlink is everywhere. Every person, there's 3 billion people that don't have internet right now. There's 3 billion people that make less than $2.50 a day right now. Imagine every single one of them. It doesn't matter if they can't speak a major language. It doesn't matter if they're not articulate, if they can't read or write. But they'll have some sort of ring or some sort of watch or some sort of pair of glasses that will connect them to the internet. And they will have internet connectivity. And with their voice, they will be able to speak to the cloud and be able to tell the cloud what they want to learn. So they can get a skill, so they can actually apply themselves and be a productive member of the global society and make a living from that skill. Or maybe they're ready to actually teach something. And so they know how to rear children, they know how to cook, they know how to garden, they know how to do art. They have all kinds of crazy stories about their ancestors, what this ancestor did 50 years ago or 300 years ago. And they can start speaking and telling these amazing stories. And we're tired of Netflix. We're tired of Amazon Prime. We're tired of the same podcasters over and over again. We want to hear the Jungle Woman talk about her great ancestors and the fact that that Jungle Woman can speak in her own dialect, in her own voice, and have it translated into our voice and us be able to hear it with the rest of the globe in real time. And those are two really profound examples of what could happen in the next 18 to 81 months in the way I see technology scaling at the present moment.
So good. Well articulated, Ian. let me do this really helpful and